Welcome to the Yup Life podcast. Firefighters use wetting agents to make water wetter.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Yup Life podcast. Today's a very, very special day. We have a special guest, a fellow engineer, fellow classmate. Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon.
Boom, boom, boom.
How's it going, guys?
Crowd goes wild.
Joey, we
Gotta get your sounders.
Yeah, we really need to invest into the soundboard.
We're trying.
I know.
We really want that. No.
We say this every episode, and I cut it out every time.
We're going to get it.
So, Brandon, you've been listening to the podcast for a while.
It's awesome. I love it.
One of the three people.
What are the three people? You guys the other three?
Yeah.
I was going to do the spiel about like why we're doing this and kind of like what our purpose is here, but you kind of already know.
No,
it's just like
fine.
we're labeled as millennials, we're labeled as like young professionals, but you know they always have a negative connotation, and we're just trying to prove that we're not that yuppie, we're not that millennial.
There you go.
We're pretty normal. But yeah, we'd like to have you on here, like to have other people on here to talk about their experience as a young professional and specialties in their life that we know about. And one of yours is parenthood.
Yeah.
Because you are the minority of our friend group that has a kid.
I was gonna say when you asked me to come on and do this, I was trying to think if, and obviously I pretty much only know our mutual friends, but as far as I could think, I don't know anybody else
Right.
who's got a kid. I don't know if you ever married, but
Yeah.
you know,
I think
yeah.
we got like one other person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steven, the other Steven.
Okay.
Shout out to Steven.
Yeah, we need to have him.
He likes that.
Yeah.
But before we dive in there,
Right.
we should like to do, well, first we got to start off. Today we're drinking a little Mountain Dew and
Some Tennessee whiskey.
For those who are daring.
yeah.
We'll let them guess who it is.
Brandon pounded a lot of Mountain Dew in college for sure.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know he did.
Oh, for sure.
Nice.
Baja Blast is that
Baja
the go-to?
Blast from Taco Bell, man. Apache and rural. That's just scary how I know that so much.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Cheers.
This is 21, by the way,
Episode 21.
Legal age.
of drinking age. Yep.
Oh, nice.
Oh wait, I just gave that away. We also like to do our little yuppiest thing you've done.
Mm-hmm.
Can be in your life if you want, because we haven't talked to you yet. But anybody want to start right off the bat?
Steven.
What's what? Okay, I'll start.
The guy that always talks crap about Florida.
Everything happens in Florida, man.
Lo and behold, where did you go?
Yeah, I went to Miami for a little bit, drinking pina coladas on the beach.
Mr. 305 over here.
Hey, that's why I'm so dark. I turned a little Cuban. But yeah, it was fun, man. It was a beach bum for the majority of it.
Did you stay in a hotel or something, or you just slept on the beach?
I should have actually. No, we stayed in a little Airbnb right on Ocean Drive, which is like, I guess the Strip in Vegas. Like it's where everything is, like all the clubs and all like the restaurants and stuff.
Is that where they shot Scarface?
We saw the house. We took a little boat tour.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was pretty. It's not the same anymore. I guess they demolished that house. But on the boat tour, like we saw all like the billionaires' houses right on like the beach or whatever. And it's ridiculous because for a lot of those people, that's their summer home. You know, like no one was there.
Right.
We saw Will Smith's house.
Was he there?
No.
Wait, isn't it summer?
I don't know. Winter house?
It's probably winter house.
Yeah, because it never gets
Florida,
it never gets cold down there. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's if you see me a lot darker on the camera, that's the reason why.
I had to tweak some settings to get you visible.
Once you got polar opposites over here, I'm like as white as a ghost over here next to Steven.
Camera is struggling.
What's going on?
What's the balance?
It's funny.
When we first got these lights, I set it up and it was like right next to me, and I was just like whitewashed in that first episode, but figuring it out.
Yeah.
Ruben, you got anything?
No.
Nothing?
I can't think of anything.
Make something up? You went skydiving or?
Just make some up.
I did indoor skydiving, but I think I already said that.
Oh, I don't think
I don't think you did.
I don't think I ever said that.
No.
But this was a couple weeks ago.
I think the last time we talked.
Oh, I went indoor skydiving.
How
How about you?
how was it indoor skydiving though?
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Is it like scary?
No, it's not scary at all. It's just like you're in there. You know you're fine, but at the same time, you're trying to learn how to like balance yourself
You
and
feel like a baby deer.
kind of,
Yeah.
kind of. And then the
awesome.
guy there is holding you and trying to correct you, and then you're trying to do your own thing, but he's trying. It's fun though. It's fun.
I've seen some funny videos where they're like the people are like trying to swim and stuff, and it just looks horrible. Just calm down. They'll take care of it.
Did you become a pro by the end?
No.
Okay. No said.
It's really hard.
We were just hitting all the walls.
Just like a toilet being flushed.
There
you go. I feel like if you turn too much to the one side, you just like instantly like smack a wall.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine.
Our instructor was like, I know a lot of people don't understand this, but if you're coming close to the wall, it's okay to push yourself off. Some people don't do that. Some people just go and hit themselves. So,
Face plant.
yeah. But it was pretty cool.
I feel like when you're in an element that you've never been in before, all logic goes out the window.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you're skydiving or like fan diving, nothing makes sense in your head. You're just like, it's all instinct. It's like
Yeah.
fight or flight. But
It's very interesting how those buildings work. They have like the fans are actually on the top of the building.
also, you're getting sucked.
like a
up.
suction.
Whoa.
But no,
It's
but
like a
it blows
vacuum, or-
air throughout the whole facility,
okay.
the whole building, and then shoots it back up.
Mm.
It's
So
not
if-
like a straight.
If you're outside the tube, you're getting blasted with air too.
If you're out, no, it's all in. It's all
Probably
they-
piped in.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
you were saying like the whole building.
But it goes through the whole building. It's very.
Oh.
You'd have to look it up, but the layout
Hmm.
it just goes around the perimeter of the building and then back up through the middle.
You know he's an engineer when he was like,
I was so-
checking out the pipes.
More
I was-
interested in that.
It was pretty cool.
Awesome. Joey, I think you're up.
I
Let the guest go last.
went camping last week.
Oh, why did you go
It
camping?
was my birthday.
Hey.
It's your birthday.
Went to Flagstaff. Camped in the back of the truck for the first time.
Nice.
Threw an air mattress back there. It was like way better than a tent.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I threw a surprise, unsurprised birthday party on Sunday.
Surprise, unsurprised?
Yeah, that's my yuppiest thing.
It wasn't much of a surprise.
Nah.
I got home. I was like, yeah, I'll probably take a nap, go to the movies or something. And then like I opened my cooler and there was 2 bags of ice in there. I'm like, something's going on here. Why does someone need ice and why is it in my cooler?
It's awesome.
So we had a little get together.
I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I would have been there.
Priorities. I understand. But yeah, I went to Arizona. It's like a outdoor kind of zoo
I've heard that.
where you like drive through exhibits
Okay.
where there's bears and wolves and donkeys and animals.
I really want to see wolves and bears. Like,
It was summer.
they're a lot bigger than what you think, I bet.
Yeah, it was summer, so they're all kind of just lounging around doing nothing. But I would assume in the winter they're probably more
Oh, yeah.
active.
It's like going to the zoo down here in the summertime. It's worthless.
Right, they're hiding in their caves and
Yeah.
stuff.
It's like you don't see anything.
So Brandon, anything you've splurged on or unnecessarily purchased?
I got a couple things. One is really stupid, so I'll start with that one.
Perfect.
I went and got a new phone. That's not the stupid part. And while I was at the phone store, I saw this kid playing this game on the iPhone. It's like a Mario game. I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. So I go to the App Store, check it out. I play. There's like, you know how they do. You know, this is your like a free trial. You can go this far in the game, but then you have to like pay for the app or something like that. Mm-hmm. All right. So I don't normally pay for apps. I'm kind of like Joey, right? So for Steven, since we don't know each other as well, a lot of the stuff that Joey thinks, how it's very similar, and you'll probably see that throughout this episode.
Okay.
So, and I'll reference a few things like that. But anyway, I never pay for apps. I shouldn't say never, but very rarely. It has to be a super good in value.
I think
for me
I
to pay
spent
for something.
$10 on Clash of Clans one time.
Okay.
That was the only time.
So I spent $10 to get the rest of Mario because it was awesome,
Yeah.
and I still have it, and it's I played it. Anyway, that's the stupid one.
A $10 app is like, that's kind of
It's
expensive.
expensive.
But like
Yeah.
you think about like a video game that's like what, 60 bucks or
yeah,
something?
Exactly.
It's really not.
Right. And this is like legit Nintendo. Like it's basically
Oh, really?
a Mario like brand.
It's not like a
on your
knockoff
phone.
kind of-
No,
Pretty
no, it's like legit Mario, and
Mario Run.
yep, exactly what it is. Yep.
Ruben's like, right
Ruben's
here.
like I got this.
I already beat
Same thing.
Check out my score. No.
Yeah. So that was probably the most nonsensical thing I've done in a while.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, which was the cool thing, is in May and June, I actually went to Israel and Greece.
Oh, nice.
So that was my first out of, other than Canada, out of country trip. So that was really cool.
Nice.
Crazy.
You know, it was really neat to see everything over there. We were in Greece for a couple of days. Most of it was with Israel, and just to see the culture down there, and it's really like they act like nothing goes on. Like they're like walking around the streets just like we do. And even though you hear all the stuff in the news and you hear all the, you know, oh my goodness,
Like it's a war zone.
It's like a war zone. It really isn't. It's actually it was incredible to see the disparity between how they live their life and how we think they live their life.
Fake news.
Crazy.
That's exactly right. So that was kind of cool. And we were there with my church group, and my father-in-law is actually the pastor, and so him and I were roommates because my wife didn't go, and neither did my mother-in-law, because you know our kid was, let's see, this was May. He was a month old. So
Oh, yeah.
So we had decided early on, because you had to do these deposits like 6 months in advance. So we decided we're not going to try to take a 1-month-old. So I would still go, and I would go room with him. But he's super knowledgeable. He loves history, and obviously he's our pastor as well. So it's like, it was great just to see all the different sites and get the backstory of it. So
What was the coolest part?
Oh man,
The food, the culture, the architecture.
I was gonna ask, like, how is the food?
so it's really good.
What's like their staple?
Their staple. So it's funny, when we were out touring, we would, literally stop for lunch at this like hole in the wall spot, and you would get 3 choices. You'd get falafel, shawarma, or schnitzel.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wouldn't get like schnitzel, and you'd get only 2 choices, and you'd get that and a drink, and it was like $16.
Oh, wow.
U.S. dollars?
US dollars,
Ooh,
16
boy.
bucks. Yeah, it was expensive. It was kind of expensive. So, but what they would do, you'd get the pita with the hole in it. You'd get either the shawarma or the schnitzel or falafel, whatever. And then the first day they said, okay, you're going to get a shawarma, salad, and a drink. So I was thinking, okay, you get the shawarma, you get a little side salad, and you get a drink. No, the salad's like some sprigs of cucumber and lettuce in the pita with the shawarma and schnitzel. So it's not like this separate thing, right?
hilarious.
Bamboozled.
Yeah, exactly. So that was probably most of the trip we got that. So that was when we were out. Our hotels we kind of booked it through. It's called Educational Opportunity Tours. It's just kind of a tour group. And the hotel we stayed at, or all the hotels we stayed at, would be considered like nice resorts. So we were staying in really good spots. And they would have, for breakfast and dinner, they would have buffets. So you'd get
Like American? Or
well, it was still kind of Israeli. So you'd have a lot of fish, rice. You'd have no pork, right? So nowhere could you get sausage or anything like that. That's
Bacon.
pork. Bacon. You couldn't get bacon. And so, but you'd get a lot of fish, rice. You would get roast beef. I think one time we had a little lamb. So we had a wide variety at our buffet meals. The breakfasts were super weird. And the reason I say, because these hotels are semi-Americanized, so you could go get there's a little section with like scrambled eggs and stuff like that. So you could still get something like that. But like the breakfast they're huge on cheese for breakfast, which I think is weird. Like it'd be cool. It's cool to try, but I don't know. Eating cheese for breakfast just doesn't sound
Just
good
straight
to me.
cheese?
Just like they were like, cheese just sitting out there. It's almost like
That's weird.
your cheese and veggie trays.
Right.
It was that for breakfast.
Oh, that's interesting.
That with what else did they have? It was it's kind of odd and a little eclectic. Fortunately, the breakfasts were a little bit more Americanized. So pretty much what I had was fruit. They had a lot of fruit too, which is good. And so I just had a lot of fruit for breakfast usually, but that was really cool. So that's probably and that was probably the most yuppie thing that I've done.
That is really cool.
So
Yeah.
more than I've done, that's for sure.
really cool experience, and it was great to go. I mean, it was a good time to go because a couple of my good friends were going. It was kind of we had a good pod of our age group. We've had groups go from our church in the past, and they're they're like a couple old people and like 1 or 2
weird
like our
mix.
age, kind of a weird mix.
Yeah.
But this is like all 2 or 3 of my best friends there were going, and it was really cool to just hang out with them, going from place to place. So yeah, it was cool.
It's a good time.
Dang, guys.
Step it up.
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's get like a
podcast.
little bit about yourself.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
general, like where you went to school,
All right.
where you're from,
Okay.
just so people know who you are,
Yeah.
who they're listening to.
So I was actually born in Virginia, 91. So I'm 27. I gotta calculate too sometimes because I'm like I'm getting old, but I don't remember what number it is.
Start forgetting.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was born in Virginia. My family moved out here when I was 3. So at this point, I kind of consider myself a native.
I'd say so.
You know, that's a long time, and it just takes longer to explain that to people. Like when they ask where you're from, you know, I'm engineer, very detailed. I'm like, well, technically, I was born not here, but anyway. So I was, you know, moved here when I was 3. Went to, Gilbert Elementary, or not Gilbert Elementary School, but Ben Franklin Elementary School in Gilbert. And then for junior high and high school, I went to, it's now called Gilbert Christian Schools. Used to be when I was there, they called it Surrey Garden Christian School. So
Was that private?
it was private. Yep,
Okay.
it was private school. And then the Ben Franklin was a charter school, so not quite private, not quite public, you know, but super good education. They work you a grade ahead. So like in second grade, I was doing third grade stuff. Kind of, it's one of those types of schools. So really good foundation for the education. And then during junior high and high school, it was a work at your own pace type school. And I'm a very driven.
I was gonna say that's either really bad or really good.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because I'm an extremely driven person, academically and everything. And so it was great for me because I could go as fast as far as I wanted to.
Right.
But there was, like Joey said, there were some people that really, you had a minimum. So it's not like you couldn't do, you couldn't just do nothing, but you had a minimum you had to do.
Yep.
But if you wanted to do more, you could, which is a cool school model for certain people.
Could you skip ahead, like graduate early?
Not,
Or you could like be done with the semester early, or what's the
Kind
advantage
of.
of being
so
ahead of the game?
Being ahead of the game is basically what I was able to do is, so by about 9th grade, I was doing like, the trigonometry and like algebra 3 or whatever it was, where normally you'd be like algebra 1. So I kind of was able to start the momentum, and it actually, and I'll explain it here in a little bit, but it actually paid dividends once you got into college too.
Right.
Because I dual enrolled Calc 1 and 2 as a senior in high school.
Nice.
So I didn't have to take those at ASU.
You skipped 1 and 2?
I did 1 and 2 in my senior year.
That's awesome.
So I didn't have to do that at ASU. So spoiler alert, I went to ASU. I hadn't got there yet. But I kind of got the ball rolling with the working ahead thing, and it mostly paid dividends in math. I was still kind of ahead in like history and stuff like that, but it's not like
That's not your interest, so
exactly. It's I was ahead and I was getting good grades and stuff like that. I should say I didn't get my first B until like 6th grade. I always put
nerve-wracking.
I always put so much pressure on myself. I'm a firstborn, like I said, driven, goal oriented. So I was a 5th grader, 5th or 6th grader. I think I cried when I got a B. I was like that distraught. And then throughout high school, 4.0, there was like 2 or 3 of us that graduated. So I graduated in a class of 23. So extremely small.
Wow.
Compared to, you guys were like
400 or something?
yeah. So really small, but I thought it was cool because we did a really cool senior trip. We actually rented a beach house in Coronado, and all 23 of us went over there and just kind of hung out for the weekend.
Wow.
And something you can't do as well with a larger class. You'd have to take a contingent, like your friends, and you go do that on your own accord.
Yeah, I think the senior trip we did was third party. It was not with the school. It was just like one guy was like, I'm going to organize this, and whoever wants to go can go.
Yep.
So
yeah, so I thought that was a cool advantage of having a kind of a small, tight class.
Yeah.
And we had I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but our class was like 15 guys and like 8 girls. So we were a pretty chill class, and we got along with everyone. I think there were like 3 cliques within the 8 girls somehow. I don't know how that worked, but there was some drama there. But overall, our class really was, got along well with each other, and it was really cool. It was a really cool experience.
Usually don't get that from high school. No one says it was a really cool experience.
Yeah. And and I had I've always been kind of, at least in high school, I was always kind of a head down kind of, I'm going to do my schoolwork, school first. But I played high school sports, played baseball, basketball, soccer. I did a year of cross country only because my basketball coach said that we had to be the semester before, the season before basketball, because I am not a runner. Let me tell you what, guys, I'm not a runner. It was awful. I was always last, like in our group. And so me and this other guy, we would, real quick side note, we would, on our practices, we would just purposely just get lost and start walking, and then find our way back and just start running again because we didn't want to run. So
Right.
it was really bad. But I did not like cross country because for me, that's running without a purpose. You know, like and I get, you get races and stuff like that. But for me, unless you're running like to put the ball in a basket or to kick a goal
Yeah.
or to score a home run, like there's no point.
You're running to run.
Exactly.
Like,
right.
Running is just a part of another sport. It shouldn't be a sport.
Exactly. That's my thoughts of it. My wife likes to run, but she's crazy. So just in that regard, I'll say just in that.
Disclaimer.
Not yeah, just right. Just a disclaimer. She's not legitimately crazy. So she's a wonderful woman. We'll get into that more. But anyway, graduate high school, 09. So same year as you guys.
Yep.
Went to ASU. Another note is, so I knew a couple episodes ago, I think you were talking about, when did you know you wanted to be an engineer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew in my 10th grade year, I was like,
Wow.
I'm going to be a structural engineer, which is weird. Like you guys said on the like nobody knows in high school what you're going to be, right? You just kind of, you kind of find your interest in high school and then you kind of explore more in college. But, I was always into Legos. I was just interested in the building industry, just the construction sites. And so I was like, I'm going to be a structural engineer.
Nice.
Shout out to Legos.
Yeah.
'Cause I think
Right?
that's the start to everything.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they've like created the engineers of this country right now.
They invented STEM single-handedly.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so I went to ASU, civil engineering program. I think I had CEE 101 with you guys. And it's funny, as I was thinking back about it in college, we really didn't start, hanging out or whatever until it was like sophomore or junior year.
Yeah. Well, we were taking so many different classes. We don't see each other.
Exactly.
So-
And I had some friends that from high school that had come in to ASU as well. So you kind of, right at the beginning, you still kind of have that ties back to high school, and so you try to hang out, but eventually they're doing something different and you just kind of, part ways and,
Yep.
and go your separate ways. And they always tell you, friends in high school, they're not, unless you're local like you guys, right? A lot of times, like I don't do a whole lot with my high school friends anymore.
They're
but-
not like lifelong friends.
Exactly, but I mean, college friends. I mean, you're usually in the same industry. You're usually if you stay local and don't move out of the state, you're still there. And
You're more mature.
Exactly, you're more mature. So, went through the civil engineering program, and how the working ahead paid dividends was by the time I was a senior, and I did the 4+1 program, so I was able to take more grad classes as a senior, and then so by the time I was in the very last semester, I had like one class, and so it just basically snowballed ever since when I did the math classes in high school. I didn't have to take them in college, which means I could take more class. I just kept pulling from the semester ahead until there was nothing more to pull from. So, so graduated in 13 with the bachelor's degree, and then 14 with a master's, and then
Do you have an internship in school?
I did. So I actually I had technically two internships. One was at a civil firm, local civil firm. And about 9 months in, I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Like, it was true civil, like grading, making like residential streets.
Right.
I was like, no way. There's no way I'm doing this. But I knew that's not what I wanted to do. But I knew someone from the company. He was like the vice president or something like that. And I asked him, hey, can I just get my foot in the engineering door? He's like, sure, yeah, for sure. And then you guys probably know, Joey, the other Joey.
Yeah.
He actually interned at the place I work now. Can we say the name of the place I work?
If you want, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the place I work now is a DLR Group, and so he interned there, and he decided to leave to finish his PhD or do his PhD, and he had sent an email out to a bunch of people in the classmates saying, hey, there's this internship. It's for structural engineering. I was like, oh, cool. So I applied, and I ended up getting that job, and that's where I am today. So basically,
Kind of like this guy. He took someone else's spot. That was a
Yeah.
classmate, right?
Yeah.
was that Joel?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then someone else too after that.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
just following people's
Yeah.
footsteps.
Yeah. I took Alan's job.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at now.
You know what's funny? Funny story about that. So did you know he has a twin brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know about that until like I started working there. I was like,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Like identical or like?
Identical. And the reason I know this is because his twin brother is an architect, and he started his first day at my firm the same way I had my first day.
No
You
way.
look familiar.
And I was like, "Hey, what's up, Alan?" He's like, I'm Benjamin." I was like, "Whoa, this is weird." So I didn't know he had a twin brother until that day.
We have they sent a Christmas card to the company, I think last year, maybe 2 years ago, and it's a picture of him and his twin brother, and it's like, whoa.
It's super.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to tell them apart.
They're
And,
completely identical. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't help when they like dress the same and like have the same hairstyle, right?
Exactly.
Are
Exactly.
you trying to make this hard on us?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, that's a little bit about me.
You got married?
Yep, that's true. Duh. I'm like thinking school life here. So within that, got married in 2014 in March.
That was the year you graduated
with my
your
master's. Yeah.
yeah.
So we got married right before, a couple months before I graduated with my master's. So it was pretty much done with school. And again, that was a semester I had like 1 or 2 classes. So it was really not, sometimes you do want to wait till out of school, I think. And just because it's difficult when you get married in school. But anyway, we did a couple months early, and then so we've been married for about 4.5 years. We just had our first kid in April, 2 days before my birthday. So
Oh, man.
that
Just
was
missed it.
that was really cool. His due date was when was his due date? April 9th. And my due date, my birthday.
Valentine's getting them.
Yeah. My birthday is April 5th. So it's like, we just had the 2 days there. I was like, man, he could really come on my birthday.
Can you wait a little longer?
I know, right? So I was like, that's okay, because there'd probably be a time in his life he was like, man, I had the same birthday as my dad, but
I'm sick of this.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad he does have his kind of his own day. So we've been married for about 4.5 years now. So it's
awesome.
It's awesome. She's a wonderful woman. I love doing life with her, and just she's smart, successful, and kind of like us, like in our stage of life. We bought a house a couple years ago.
Doing life.
Yeah, man.
Grown up.
I'm like the stereotypical American white male. Yeah. Right? Okay. Anything you think, I got a dog, I got a kid, a house, and a solid job.
Right.
That's like the most stereotypical guy.
Pretty
right?
basic.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too flashy, right? But
you do have a kid, which is why we want you on here.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And being even under 30 and married is an accomplishment, because I think the average is about 30.
Okay. Yep.
And having
Makes
a kid
sense.
is just even more so. I think we were talking about that last week. We're like talking about 5-year goals, and that's going to be coming up on Monday here. And
Okay.
it was like, how many kids do you want to have in 5 years? You're like, 0 to 1. By the time you're like
12.
32.
I said 12.
This guy wants 12 kids. I'm like, you know how math works, right? Like, you can't have 12 kids in 5 years.
Yeah, it's true.
Um,
With the same woman, anyways. But
Oh, true.
I'm just saying.
Good point, guys.
I'm just saying. Not that I condone that disclaimer, but
Explore your options.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I'm the family man. Not supposed to say that stuff.
We didn't even think of that.
That's bad. That's bad. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
Was the kid something you wanted to have at that time, or was it just kind of like it happened?
Actually, it happened at a really good time for us.
Can I say he?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, I have a wonderful 4-month-old son. His name's Braden. So he's awesome. He's just a really cool guy. Actually, I made a photo album so you guys can see, with some pictures and stuff like that. So he actually came at a really good time. So Sarah and I have always kind of wanted. That's my wife's name, by the way. We kind of wanted to have kids younger, because when they're out of the house, we'll still be like early 50s, and we can still really
Move around.
That's not old. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can still, do that. And she, and this is probably the same thing for like multiple women. She did not want to have any kids past 30. Like, and it's just it was like, I don't really understand it. I get it's the whole thing, but, she was like really set on it. And, so our goal is 2 kids probably is our goal. It's
Did that number change once you had a kid?
Actually, no. She's always wanted. She came from a family with 2 kids. I came from a family with 3 kids, and so I got 2 younger sisters. I forgot to mention that, 2 younger sisters. So she's always wanted 2 kids. I kind of wanted 3, but I've since revised that to okay, 2 is fine.
Because of this one, or
I kind of knew that it was a
handful.
It was a handful,
Yeah.
But it kind of. I was like, I'll definitely be fine with 2 after having this one. And he's not like a bad kid or anything by any stretch. It's just it's a lot of work. So,
For sure.
But we were like I said, 4 years married. So there was, we have a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but a good amount of couples that we know that had honeymoon babies. Like they get married and then they find out they're pregnant like 2 weeks later.
Oh boy.
I am just like, and both Sarah and I are like, no way. Like I think you should have some time to get to know your spouse and really,
Right.
Know what life's like, develop that relationship even more.
That's what I was going to ask. Is like, were you at a good maturity level to have a kid at that point?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we had so when you get married, you always have kind of an adjustment period, and so our first year was it wasn't bad, but there was a lot of stuff, a lot of conflicts and stuff like that, and it's really weird. Like, and both of us felt this almost exactly at the year point. Something snapped, and something like a switch turned on, and then like everything was perfectly fine.
Figured it out.
I don't know what happened.
Huh.
I can't explain it. I have no idea how that happened, but we just figured everything out. And, not to say we don't have, conflicts, but I think we understand where each other's coming from more and get the perspective on, how she thinks and she knows how I think. And, you get to really figure someone out when you're living with them 24/7.
Right.
So, and just to have that, that committed, marriage relationship, like this is life, this is forever, this is for eternity, essentially. And
It's hard to wrap your head around that sometimes.
It is, and you don't, it's something that like, we know that it is, but it's not something that we think about all the time. It's not like, oh man, this is going to be eternity, right? It's something like that.
Dwelling on it.
Yeah, you don't dwell on it. You're just kind of like, this is great. She's like she's my best friend. We talk. She gets to share things with me and what she's thinking. I know what makes her sad, what makes her happy, and it's just really cool. But as far as being a good time for a kid, I think it was. I think we were well established. I always look at it. I was always also looking at it from the financial standpoint. I still, even though we had him in April, even in October when she was pregnant, I was like, I would have these days I would be just like freaking out. I was like, oh my goodness, we are not ready to have this kid. Like we are, in my mind, we're like, we don't have any money. We're broke. Like this is going to be so expensive.
I have this like thought that there's never really a good time to have a kid. There's never a perfect time to have a kid.
I would agree.
Not perfect, yeah.
Financially, time, whatever, emotionally.
13 years old might be the worst.
When
Or
you are
16?
13?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying
16 you're pregnant might be the worst.
That's
there's no
definitely a bad
there's
time.
no perfect time.
Yeah.
Right.
No one ever
would
says
agree
like,
with that.
okay, now it's like the good time to have a kid. It's just like it happens and you figure it out.
I would agree. Yeah. And that's what I was, talking with another guy and he said the same thing because I was telling him that, man, I mean, I don't know. Am I ready to be a dad? Like,
It's a big word.
For me, I know.
It's a big 3-letter word.
It is. Because, for me, I now not only am I responsible for taking care of my wife, but now I have a little one at home and just, just the financial responsibility of that. And I'm kind of leading our family in the direction in life. And so it's a lot of pressure,
Don't forget about that dog too. You got the dog too.
I got the dog, right?
Don't forget about that
Do you
one.
think a dog is like a precursor to having a kid?
I would say if you're kind of on the fence, I would say get a dog if you don't have one. It's not, they're not as much work, but it is a good snapshot of what a kid is like because you have to plan for them when you go on vacation. You have to find someone to watch them. You have to obviously with a kid you generally take them with you But sometimes if you go away for a weekend, you can like drop them off at grandma's or something like that. But with the dog, you kind of have to plan for that. You have to feed them. You have to take care of them. You can't just like if you don't have like, for example, we have a doggy door, so it's and our dog's really really good. But if you don't, you have to go home, take them out. You have to take them on walks, keep them extra. So it's kind of we've actually told our really good friends about that, and they got a dog because they were kind of on the fence or like not sure if they were ready to have a kid, and we're just like, just get a dog to see what you think about that or how you deal with that. But I would say that's a pretty good snapshot of it. Nice thing is about dogs is typically they don't get you up every 2 hours or every 3 hours.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you're talking about finances. What is something, I guess, major that you changed? Was it just like you budgeted X amount of dollars for having a kid, or have you changed much, like in your spending habits or anything like that?
So it's interesting you say that. I thought, like I said, I was kind of freaking out, before, because, you think you have all these extra expenses, and you do. You got diapers, you've got, toys, you've got blankets, you've got
furniture,
food, exactly, food and stuff like that. So you do have an extra level of expenditure. We're blessed enough to not have to use formula. So that's a huge saver. If you don't have to use formula, that's a huge money saver.
It's free food.
It is, exactly. It's exactly. I just have to be responsible for feeding the mom, and then by nature, that's feeding the baby. Exactly. So, so that's a huge saver. But honestly, it hasn't been as much of a switch as I thought it would be. So, I mean, we were. I've been setting budgets our whole married life. That's actually my approach to that was cause for some of the first year, snafus that we had, and just my approach. And I'm not the most sensitive person. Like, I don't know. I'm a very black and white person, and not like, I don't have, I don't know. Sometimes you could say I don't have any feelings. Like sometimes my wife will tell you that, but so because of that, I came straight into marriage with that, and I was like, this is how it's going to be. This is what we're going to do.
Your MO is logic.
It is, yeah, it is very much so. And and my wife's a nurse, so I mean, you've got an engineer and a nurse, very stereotypical male and female roles, right?
You should be living in like the 50s or 60s or something.
Exactly. So I mean, I had to learn to be a little more sensitive in how to present the stuff I wanted to do financially. But anyway, we got past all that. So we found a good way to do things, for the past couple of years now. And so I was thinking, man, I had to, keep more out. What's going to happen to our retirement savings, because I'm going to have to take some, not the savings portion, but from the distribution to it, make that less so I can pay for this stuff. But I really haven't had to do too much of that.
I think you were probably more financially well off and ready financially to have a kid than most people, I would say.
I think so.
You had your finances in order, so having a kid wasn't like a big burden.
Right. So it wasn't like we weren't living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, we were, give towards our retirement savings. We budget well. We live within our means. We're not living without our means and outside of our means. So it probably wasn't as much of a switch for me personally and my family. But it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be either. Okay. So that was a pleasant surprise.
That's good.
But I mean, there's some stuff, and that's now. But now we're starting to. He's kind of at that stage where we're introducing baby food or getting close to it. Now is when you're starting to have to add some of that. So I think this will be another little step up in the budget and finances. But
and then they start growing. You got to buy shoes every 3 months.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Them Jordans.
Yeah, that's right.
All the time. Some little Yeezys. What?
Right, you got to make them looking good. Yeah. So, but yeah, and my wife is very financially conscious as well. Very frugal. So her and her mom go to like secondhand kids store sales, and they get a bunch of like barely used clothes. Because I mean, when you're looking for baby clothes, like you use them once, and then they're 2 weeks later they're grown out of it.
Right.
So there's a lot of that stuff around, and so she'll go find some stuff like that, and because that they're not going to last too long in this pair of this onesie or whatever, you don't go get the expensive onesie that that you think they should be wearing. So
Oh, God.
I couldn't even fit into onesies because my feet were too big.
No way.
That's awesome.
Just a hobbit as a little baby. Dude, I used to work at Kids Foot Locker, and I was always amazed when people would come in and buy Jordans and stuff. It's like over $100, and
That's insane.
you know, it's more expensive than like adult shoes.
I'm just wondering, like, why do they even make them that small?
I don't know, man.
Because people buy them.
Yeah.
People buy 'em.
Stupid question.
And it's weird because you'd think the smaller the shoe, the cheaper the price, but no, it's like the exact same as like our shoes.
Yeah, my size 13 is the same size as like an 8 or a 7, right? It's like you don't pay extra for the bigger shoe.
Yeah, it's all that labor. Sweatshops.
How about like responsibilities? So take your life a year ago, and you've got like, you know, you have your job, you have your fun, you have your wife, you have your house. That's about it.
Yeah.
Throw a kid into the mix. What changes? Do you have like diaper duty every day? Do you have babysitting duties on the weekends?
I bet a lot of no sleep.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
that too.
So actually, this is probably where it changes the most, and at least for our situation. So,
Like, does she do most of the work? Do you do some of the work? Do you split it 50-50? How does it go?
so
I know you're fortunate because she's a nurse and she does like probably the 312s, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So she's a nurse, so she does 312s, and she's a nurse in postpartum, so she takes care of moms and babies once they've been born.
Okay.
So she's like, this is like right up her alley.
Been training for it.
She's been training for this, you know, for her career, right? And so she's been wonderful, and it all depends. I will say it all depends on the situation of each individual couple. For us, because you hear all these stories, like, you know, you alternate, like the mom gets up, and then the next time the dad gets up. But my wife is awesome, and she's like, it doesn't make sense for you to get up because you can't do anything for him.
Right.
He needs me, and so she just gets up all the time, and I actually get normal sleep.
So until
So
the
I
kid
can-
starts eating real food, you
That
got it
might
easy.
change.
You got it easy.
It might change then, but when he starts eating real food, he'll be sleeping through the night.
Right.
So it's like, you know, at that point you're kind of, you know, right now, because when he was born, babies typically eat every 2 hours.
Whoa.
So imagine getting up every 2 hours.
I mean, that's kind of how I work, but you know,
Them games.
every 2 hours, yeah.
it's like 3, but yeah.
Yeah, that's how he is now. That's
Yeah.
3 hours now. And it's just, so imagine, you know, you can't. I mean, you're working on so little sleep. You know, I don't think Sarah's gotten more than maybe 4 or 5 hours in, you know, 4 months
In a stretch of time.
in a stretch of time, and that's usually at night, because during the day, he'll still do, but it's like, you know, 1 or 2 hours between the feedings, and then she'll have to, you know, he'll wake up and he'll want to eat again, and so that's a huge. So it depends, because I've heard, you know, sometimes the dad gets up and brings the baby in to their bed with the mom, and then, you know, she feeds him and stuff like that. But for us, you know, she was awesome enough to say, hey, you know, you get the sleep. She didn't say this, but this is kind of the attitude was, you get your sleep, you go to work, and so that way you're not dragging at work, and then
Right.
your performance goes down, and, you know,
You lose your job or something.
Right, it could lead to different things. So, so I've been fortunate enough to be with her and have that mentality.
It's a lot of foresight there.
It is. And, you know, like I said, she's very smart and awesome. So that changes. Another big thing, I was actually thinking about this week, is your social calendar changes quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because, so for example, you know, before, if I had 2 or 3 events going on in the week, it'd be no problem. I just text her, hey, I'll be home later today. I've got a, you know, structural engineers meeting or something like that I got to go to, or hey, I'm hitting up a baseball game with Joey or something like that, and we're going to be gone. And she'd be like, oh, okay, that's fine, whatever. Because she was free to do whatever, because she didn't have a kid at home either.
Yeah.
Now it's almost like, you know, I try not to have even 2 things or 3 things in a week, for a couple of reasons. One, because so she works part-time now. She's gone down to part-time, which for her is 2 12s
Okay.
a week. So basically cuts out a shift of her normal full-time work. So she tries to do one during the week where I drop him off at her mom's house. And we try not to do that too. We only do that once because her mom still works, but she works from home, so she can watch him.
Do you feel like guilty at all having them babysit, or
she does? I
Okay.
don't. I'm like, hey, have them babysit more.
I'd like to believe that grandparents like to enjoy the time with their grandkids.
So-
but it still feels awkward, like
Yes.
asking for free help like that.
So we've talked about that. Again, it's another thing you want to talk about. Different things, and we've seen some people just overuse the grandparents, where the grandparents are like, it becomes a chore.
And they're probably too nice to say no.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're like, this isn't even any fun anymore. So we don't want now I think Sarah sometimes goes to the other extreme by saying, oh, we can never have them watch them unless we're all over together hanging out. But I'm like, no, they still enjoy watching him. We're not overloading them near like to that point. They still enjoy watching him because we don't want that to be like, we want them when he as he's growing up, and any other kids we have as they're growing up, we don't want them going to their grandparents being a chore for either one. We want them to enjoy their time over there, because sometimes, I mean, I'm sure you guys remember, grandparents' houses are the fun houses, right?
Yeah.
You don't.
They feed you a lot and give you treats.
You get
and
sugar, TV, and like anything you don't get at home, right? So we kind of want that experience for our kids, because we've had positive experiences in our life with our grandparents. And so sometimes she gets a little worried about that, and she gets a little bit like, well, I don't want to, do this. I think this is too much, and I even told her mom, I was like, hey, if anything gets like too much, or you legitimately like feel like you're not getting your work done, let us know, and we'll figure something out. So she'll work one during the week and then one during the weekend, so that way I'm home to watch him. So it's been working out pretty good so far. But as far as a social calendar thing, so
do you have like an actual calendar?
I mean, we do. We have a joint calendar.
Yeah.
So we have, I can look at our calendar. I can see when she works, when I need to take him to grandma's house. And
So if I called you up tomorrow, I was like, hey, you want to hang out? It's like, no, it's not on the calendar. It needs to be booked a week out.
Oh, like that?
Yeah. How bad is it?
It kind of depends on what else is going on that week and when she's working, because on days that she works, I don't do anything after, because I want to basically relieve the grandma, right away as soon as I can. So that way, if she didn't get as much work during the day, because I work a 6 to 3, which is cool.
It's pretty non-standard for
it is very non-standard
for a desk job.
So I was able to do that because I live about 35 miles away from work. And it's right. I have to pass traffic all the time. It would take me about an hour and 15 minutes to get to and from work. And I was like, this is insane. So earlier this year, I had asked for like a 9 to 6 a couple years ago, but because I was so early in my career, it wouldn't have been beneficial for me, because I still would need a lot of oversight. And hey, I have a lot of questions, and it's hard to do that, coming in later and leaving later, whatever. So that kind of got nixed. So I just kept doing my normal, 8 to 5, whatever. And then I realized, hey, actually earlier is better, because now when Braden's in school, I'll actually be able to get home in time to, do some stuff with him. We can go outside and throw a baseball. We can go outside, kick a soccer ball, and I'll have time before dinner, and then before he has to do homework and go to bed. When I'm, in normal, if I'm leaving at 5, getting home at 6:30, he's going to bed in an hour. So it's like you don't get much time. So I was like, I was thinking further in the future as well, not just present.
That's tough for dads. I actually had an employee or an ex-coworker that lived kind of like East Mesa, I guess, not sort of out towards your way, but
a little more north, yeah.
And the commute just kind of ruined his relationship with his kid, because he can only see him for an hour a day after he got back from work.
Yep.
Because he would drive an hour and a half, hour 15.
It's tough.
And leaving at 5 o'clock, if you had to stay late, you're not going to see your kid.
Yep,
So
exactly.
I really think like you really need to like live near where you work, or at least figure something out to cut your commute down, because it really cuts into your personal life.
Yeah. And I'll say, so, where I work is pretty much, I guess, considered North Phoenix. We're kind of in that North Phoenix. That's kind of considered North Phoenix.
Uptown, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. We chose to live where we do, where we live is because, the rest of our life is down there. We both grew up in the Southeast Valley, and we both kind of, we know that area. Friends are in that area. Church is there. So the only thing that's up in there is my work. So I was prepared, even from the beginning, to make that sacrifice, because we could have bought a house closer or kind of more middle, but size of the house and in our price range, we wanted to get a little bit more for our money. And so we went out. We're right on the other side of Gilbert.
You got a killer house. It's huge.
Yeah, it's awesome.
When you first moved in, I was like, "There's two of you. Why are you living in such a big house?"
Yeah. So that house. So the plan is obviously to be there. I'd love to be there for 15, 16 years, and then after that, we have some. We'd like to get a bigger house with more land and stuff like that. And so we've talked about that. But I'd like to be in this house where we're at for quite a long time.
That's funny. Like, I don't even consider this house to be like a 10 or 15 year house.
Oh, really?
It's like 5. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like great to be in this area, but not like a long-term place.
Yeah.
Never moving away from Tempe.
No.
And you're going to have to find a new place to live.
Yep.
Yeah, and just going a little off the parenting topic, but just general, like when you're deciding to buy a house, like you guys touched on this in the previous podcast with Chris, location. Where you have to think about, hey, if you're single or if you're dating or whatever, like wherever you pick this house, is this a house? Is this going to be until we have kids, and then when we have kids, we move to a more family-friendly area,
right.
or do we just go there first and establish yourself? And,
like, are you in a good school system?
Yeah,
exactly. Do you have access to daycare or whatever? Right.
So it's all stuff you got. It all stuff you don't think about that when you're like looking for a house, but
no,
that was going through our minds when we bought because Gilbert's a great family area. It's close to a bunch of good schools and. Like I said, the only thing that's far is work. So working at 6 to 3, basically, so I get off of work and then I can get to my mother-in-law's house in about an hour. So 4:00, I can then pick him up and then Sarah gets home at around 6:30. So basically I have him for a couple hours and then we do the bedtime routine and then he's off to bed. And
nice.
So we've got it kind of down pretty good. We were actually thinking about the other day, like, we're both like, we are not ready to have another kid yet. Let's, this is enough for now, and we were talking about what we're gonna do when that second kid comes around, with like childcare and stuff like that. Because now you're talking about dropping 2 kids off,
yeah,
and then at that point it becomes almost unfeasible. So, but we're like, well, that's still a couple years, so we stopped the conversation. We're like, this is depressing, so we're not gonna think about this right now. But
let's say Sarah had a job that was more traditional, had your 9 to 5. And you guys didn't have the ability to drop him off with the grandparents every day. Are you okay with daycare for 8 hours a day? How do you feel about that?
That's an interesting conversation.
Or do you
depends on who you talk to,
right? Or do you say, all right, Sarah, you're gonna be a stay-at-home mom. We'll figure out the finances later. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, we're in a great situation. With her career field. I was like, this could not be obviously unless she's like not doing anything and making the same amount of money. Like that's the best situation. But nobody, you don't get that, right? You got to work, right? So for a working professional, like that's one of the greatest situations is being a nurse and having a kid because of their schedule. A little harder during the day they work, but you get 4 days off,
mm-hmm.
Or in this case 5 days off with part time. And it depends on who you talk to. I would probably I could find some good daycares.
One, it's financially impactful.
Yes.
Two, it's like you're not raising your kid anymore.
Exactly. So there's a couple facets to think about. Yeah. And Sarah's like, no daycare.
Oh, really?
Not
so
at
she
all.
would quit her job.
She would quit her job. Like in our situation,
mm-hmm.
if we came to that, she would be a stay-at-home mom,
okay.
Which I would prefer. Like if I can support that, I would prefer that to happen.
Is it safe to say, like, having 2 kids, you'd probably switch to that?
I think that's kind of where that conversation went. Dang. Is most likely right. That's how it's going to happen, which is why I'm like, we can't have the second kid. I'm not ready to do that. You know what I mean?
Well, you were saying that the first time, right?
I was saying that the first time.
I think it's just perpetually always like that.
It is, and that's just me too. I'm just like, we've got, I'm planning out, stuff for, years and years in the future.
The first thing you said was retirement, and I was like,
yeah,
that's the first thought when you have a kid. Yeah, retirement.
Yeah. So I'm always coming up with these elaborate plans with budgeting and right. putting away money for for later, and and I'm just like, man, if we had that second kid, like it's, we're down to one kid now. The switch is. So one of our biggest budget spending items as our family is probably food or eating out.
Always.
And it's not even just like, it's not like, really expensive restaurants. It's just like hey, I don't feel like cooking. What do you want to bring something home? Or it used to be you want to get something on your way home, but now I'm home before she is, or around the same time, so I'll go back out and get something. So it's not even like, I don't know, Benihana or anything like that.
That's this guy over here.
Not Steven. It's not, we're not
balling on food.
We're not ironing out our $100 bills at home, making sure they're crisp and clean, right? But just as a general budget item, like food and the sometimes one of the things we're still, even after 4 years, trying to figure out is just meal planning stuff, and it is difficult because you plan for stuff and then stuff comes up and you're not using it. And the worst thing is you get hit double time if you go grocery shopping and then you still go out to eat like 3 times that week. It's like, well, why did I spend all this money doing groceries? So anyway, so that's the biggest thing. Now that would definitely change, and that's gotten a little bit better since she's gone to part-time, but I still am willing, because you also have to know who you're married to. And the fact that she's like getting up every 3 hours, she's exhausted. So for me, I like to help out more. And I don't cook. Sorry, I know I'm not a very good cook at all. Like, I have no kitchen skill. So I've told her, hey, I'll try to learn some stuff. You lay out a recipe and I'll cook dinner for us or whatever. And we've done that a couple times and it's worked. But most of the time, it's like, I don't know.
Where do I even start?
I would just, that looks like the pan I'm supposed to use. You know what I mean? I've never been kitchen savvy. So I'm willing to help out a little bit more. And I have to understand that, just because she's working part-time, like, she's still working full-time at home with the baby.
Yep.
So I can't be expecting, like you mentioned, the 50s and 60s. I can't be expecting to come home to a warm, hot, piping meal
every day.
Right. Because I have to understand that, she's tired. She is just exhausted. I need to take care of her just like she's taking care of the baby. So I think as he gets older, we'll get into a rhythm. I mean, it's been 4 months, but that's nothing like with what you have to do in the first, year of the baby. So we'll get into a rhythm. But if we had that second kid and she went to, no work, I guarantee you she would be cooking more because she would want to, because she would understand our financial situation.
Right.
It's not that we couldn't. I mean, I probably blow our financial proportion way out of proportion, like in me and Sarah's conversations, like, oh my goodness, we're gonna be like on the street if you like don't work. That's probably not the case. I mean, in fact, I know it's not the case. It's just because I have such high expectations for putting money away that it makes it seem like we don't have any money. You know what I mean? So, but it's definitely stuff to think about, and it's something that you have to have that conversation well in advance, so because a lot of the things is, and we're finding this out now. You have when parenting, you have kind of your ideas of what you kind of expect to happen. Well, when you don't have a kid and you're married, you don't really talk about that stuff. I mean, you talk about a little bit of the stuff like, hey, what would you do in this situation? Like, if our kid is doing this, how would you handle that? A little bit. But until you're like in the situation, or at least starting to encounter these situations, you don't really have these conversations because you don't know what you don't know. Right. And a lot of times your natural, parenting style stems from how you were raised too. Right. And you get a lot of stuff from your parents. And when you have two people coming together and having two different parenting styles, sometimes
cause some issues, or
it could cause issues. Yeah. Like, it could cause, and so one thing I would definitely advise is when you're thinking about, even because all the stuff I'm talking about, you kind of have to think about before you even date or get married, because you have to be able to, your life partner has to have the same goals as you, or not necessarily like to a T, but in general, like, you guys kind of have to be going in the same direction. You can't be doing 180 because it just it won't work. Like, some aspects of your life would work fine, but in general, once you start getting into those crunch time situations with parenting and then one kid and then multiple kids, like, you'll start seeing those differences, and it'll just cause a lot of friction. And that's another reason why I would highly recommend not having honeymoon babies, because you get that time to know your spouse and to know what their tendencies and where their worldview is.
Not too many like what ifs or like
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, and there's, like I said, there's still some stuff even between us that, I would do something slightly different than she would. But the general end goal is the same for both of us. Like, we know, what we want, for our kids, and we know how we want to raise them. And, with the, we kind of had that same track mind.
Yeah.
Which is very advantageous because it makes it easier for us to support each other during the parenting process. Because, it's still a learning process as you have your first kid. So
I know. And it's only 4 months, so it's really early.
Yeah, it is extremely early. So, I mean, we've got toddler years, we've got school,
Terrible
teenagers.
twos.
Exactly. Like, we got all those stages to go through.
Right. I know, like I said, it's only 4 months, but are you looking forward to your kid going to school yet? Just to have some freedom and some, reprieve?
I don't know. I think he's a little bit too young for us to be able to be there yet.
Yeah, you're not tired of it yet.
No, and I probably wouldn't necessarily get there because again I'm gone every day, 5 days a week. And I see them for 3-4 hours every evening and then on the weekends, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's some days that, and I know there's some days that Sierra's just so tired. She's just she just has this that's her day is just
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm sure there will be those days, but then the next day or he'll do something and she'll text me, she'll be like, oh my goodness, I love this kid so much. Because it's such a paradigm or a paradox of just completely opposite. There's so much work, but there's so much satisfaction with a kid. They're the most amazing things ever.
Yeah. A lot of people tell me they're like, I would say 90% of the people that have kids tell me don't have kids. It's too much work.
Okay.
But I'm wondering if that's just on the surface of it's a lot of work, or it's truly deep down they hate having kids.
I think, yeah. And I think it depends on your outlook. Because typically
if you were to just offer the advice, would you say, yeah, having kids would be great?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I would say definitely. I would disclaimer it a little bit, make sure try to get your life situation as much solid ground as possible.
Most of these people are older though,
Okay.
maybe mid 30s or 40s.
Okay.
So kids ruined my life. I'm like, why did you have them then? I don't get it.
Yeah, so in that case, it might be, I still would say they're awesome, and it really is a perspective thing because a lot, and I don't know the people you're necessarily referencing, but it could be because, when we're, single or dating or even engaged or even newly married and stuff like that, you can do whatever you want. You're not limited. You can just on a whim, hey, let's go do this.
Right.
You can't do that with the kids. So some people resent that, and some people might say it's the kid's fault that I can't go to, just on a whim, just fly to, Seattle for a weekend or something like that because either I can't afford it or I got to find some place for the kid to go, So
It's really just pros and cons.
it really is. Yeah. And it really is your perspective. And you just have to understand that when you have a kid, your social calendar, like I was saying earlier, just changes a lot.
Right.
And you have to, I don't know if I quite finished that point. I think we went off tangent wise, but you're down to picking one or two things. There's a week coming up, and what we try to do is I try to look a couple weeks ahead when I'm planning some stuff, and or things come up, and we've got some training for work, and some guys from our Denver office are coming down, and we do team building activities and stuff like that. Well, there's 2 nights that they're planning to do stuff, and I was just like, hey, all right, I picked one of them. I can't do both of them because
Sacrifices.
you got to make sacrifices. And so the people who are like, oh my goodness, don't have kids, they're like, they ruin your life. I think to some level,
they're just exaggerating.
There is a level of, it depends on your perspective, because
Right.
if you consider making some of these sacrifices for your children ruining your life, then they're correct.
I just think it's weird because there's so many people that said the same thing, and I'm like, is there some truth to this, or are you guys all just conspiring?
I think if you got down to the heart of it, there are a lot of work, so on the surface you're like, oh man, I can't do anything I used to. But if you got deep down to it and you really push came to shove, they would do anything for those kids.
Right.
And they love them. I I'm again, I don't know who you're referencing, but I could imagine
It's like, in-laws or like older friends or whatever.
Okay.
I would also imagine it depends like what you like to do beforehand as well. Like
That's
if
also
you're,
true.
I don't know, just hop on a flight, go to Japan and
Right.
I don't know, do some, some crazy stuff over there, like
Yeah.
it might be tough now.
But if
especially
you're
with the
if a homebody, then you just
you're probably fine with it.
My dad tells me don't have kids.
Is that because of you, Ruben?
he had 3 of them.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it right 3 times.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. So, and on that note, we actually have some friends that she really likes to travel, and they've been going back and forth on whether they want to have kids right now because she still has a bunch of places she wants to go.
It's
And
tough.
she knows that when you have the kid, she can't do that. That pretty much stops until they're out of the house, which is 18, 20 years from when they have the kid.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. I mean, you do have a lot to think about. And again, that's another reason why if you have a honeymoon baby, you don't get to do all that stuff with your best friend, right? You don't get to do all that stuff. And I mean, Sarah and I had some wonderful vacations before. Like we went to Seattle. We'd go to San Diego to visit our friends over there. We could do that. We can't do it as well as easy. We actually did go our first vacation with our son was he was 3 months old. It was right before she went back to work. We went to San Diego. Oh my goodness. That was
it
we
horrible,
should
or-
have just not gone at all.
Oh, man.
So the reason is, and it wasn't horrible. It's just it was so different than what we've been used to. Because first of all, when we used to go over there, we'd stay with our friends because there's just 2 of us, and they have an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. We were in one, they were in the other. Boom, worked. Well, we don't want to like. Our philosophy is we're not going to try to mooch off people. We might know people over there, but we're going to make sure if we can't afford the trip, we're not going to go. We're not going to try to mooch off people so we can afford the trip to go.
Right.
So we got our Airbnb, and part of it I think was that because the Airbnb only had a window cooler unit. And it was kind of miserable and it was a little hot.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. But the other part is our car was packed so full, and we have a Jeep, Jeep Compass or whatever, and we have one kid. We literally had this thing packed to the brim with everything. And it wasn't like, and I asked Sarah, I was like, after the trip, I was like, so is there anything we could have like left out or could have not brought? And she's like, no.
Wow.
Yay.
Oh,
So
man.
everything that we brought, it was like,
Cribs, strollers.
yeah, it was
diapers.
It was necessities,
Yeah.
and I mean, we had, and because of the space in the car too, we couldn't bring like real big bags, so it was like it just felt like a lot, but we probably could have put it all in maybe 3 big suitcases, other than like his pack and play, his stroller, stuff like that. But so many things.
Yeah.
It was amazed me how many things. So anyway, vacationing is, I mean, we're not going on a vacation until he's like 10. Just because it's a lot of stuff to take.
Yeah.
So
I think it's hard for us millennials because majority of us go to college and you're done by 21, 22. You got to get your finances and life in order for the next few years because most people go into debt, right? And then you got to think about getting married, and then you got to think about like being with a person for a long enough time to marry them. And then by the time you're having kids, you're early 30s.
Yep.
So like you are a minority of having a kid so early.
Yep. I think it's because there was it didn't take me a whole lot. Like Sarah and I were officially dating like 10 months before we got married between the 2 times we dated, because we knew a lot about each other already. Just because essentially she was in my friend group.
You grew up with her,
and,
basically.
we grew up together, and we knew we had. She wasn't somebody that I just met and I had to find out her value system. I kind of knew the general value system she had. I knew it aligned with mine.
Yeah.
So that took a lot out of what you would normally try to find out.
The trial
dating.
period.
Exactly. It took a lot out of the trial period because I knew how she thought about certain things, and it aligned with mine. So we just kind of skipped some of that because we didn't need to do that. So that did help.
I didn't even throw in the part about like having fun and traveling or doing things together.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just multiplies, and by the time you're that age, you're like, do we even want kids anymore? Yeah. So I think I said it on the podcast before, but millennials aren't keeping up with the growth rate of population growth. Like they're not having enough kids to keep up the increase.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that.
Yeah,
And
I think it's just societal, the way society works for us.
Yeah, it makes sense because, I mean, you have a lot of people like us that love to travel. Sarah actually likes to travel more than I do. I'm like, I like America, so I'm like America. But like I said, that Israel trip was my first time out of the country other than Canada, but Sarah's been, all over Singapore, France, London. Like she's been a lot of places, and she loves it. And so my theory is, and it kind of worked out well. I was like, let's, because typically it's kind of a bummer because if you like to travel, like you said, a lot of times you're in debt coming out of school, and you're kind of trying to find the time to have the kids, but you don't have enough money to do a whole lot of the traveling you want. So, if you really like to travel like Sarah does, I just told her, hey, we're not gonna travel a whole lot now. We're gonna do our kid thing, and we're just gonna save a bunch of money now, so that way when they are out of the house and we're 50 something, then we can do our traveling.
Right.
We're not gonna be like old and decrepit. 50 is really not that old. No. And we'll have, so let's see, he's born. Yeah, so 18 years. That's 45. I'll be 45 when he's 18.
That's
That's young.
Right?
That's good. That's
Now,
really
obviously,
good.
if we have the second kid, might push it to 47, but still, not even 50, right?
Yeah,
and that's, you're kind of in your prime, you know what I mean? Like, you can still do traveling, and especially if you're doing you're not doing backpacking stuff, but, you're doing cruises, you're doing,
The nice stuff.
The nice stuff.
You're not
exactly.
staying in
Hostels.
hostels,
Right.
like B&Bs and stuff. It's
Right.
like
Because you'll have so what I pitched to her during early in our marriage and when we were dating, I was like, I can't promise we're gonna do a whole lot of traveling. Because it's not really my interest, but that's not the reason. Because I'm like, there's give and take, but mainly because I want to be able to even right off the bat, I want to create the strong foundation for the kids that we're gonna have, and so we started doing that, and then I was like, we'll do our traveling later. Like I promise you, we'll do our traveling later. So. So that's kind of our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Dude, I want to bring you back to the schools. First off, I think I'm going to cry whenever I drop off my kid, to kindergarten.
I'm probably going to be
whatever.
with you there.
Yeah.
are you gonna man up and cry in your car or
Oh, no, I'll cry
all the whole time?
You're going to cry looking in the window at your kids.
Yeah.
All 12?
All 12.
All 12.
Well, with the first one first, and then...
the rest or whatever?
Yeah.
He'll probably become a hardened robot by the time 3 comes around.
Get out of the car. Go to school.
Don't even stop.
Tuck and roll.
Yeah. But are you thinking are you going to do preschool? Are you going to go private school versus public school? Do you have a certain direction you want to push them in?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So preschool wise, we would prefer not to. Now, and I shouldn't say prefer not to. It's not a bad option.
Okay.
But I think the stuff you can learn in preschool, I think you can learn just as well from parenting. From
that,
us. Yeah. Especially again, I'll go back to when we have that second kid. Sarah's probably not going to be working, or in order to keep her nursing license, she might have to work, every once in a while just to keep her license. And then we figure out something then. But she's home going through numbers, going through the alphabet, going through words and reading with them, and we think that's the best way to prepare our kid for kindergarten and elementary school is teaching from the parents.
I heard people teaching their kids sign language early.
Yes.
to
That's
awesome. Learn.
That's
I'm
very
hungry
common.
or
Yep, that's
but,
very
but
common.
I've also heard that it can stunt their growth of learning to speak because they just use sign instead of words.
Oh, that's funny.
So it's like a catch-22. What do you do?
Yeah.
We've talked about that. I think we're not going to do the sign language, but it's not like we're not like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. It's
Right.
just like, I think we'll just...
Maybe one or two things like,
Sure.
I'm hungry or I have to
Yeah.
pee or whatever.
Exactly.
Would that be probably the best, chance you get to teach them another language as well? You know what I mean?
in America, probably.
Yeah.
Because, school system doesn't teach kids
No.
jack
Anything
here.
else?
Yeah.
So that's the answer to your preschool question,
Yes.
at least from our perspective. I think it's just, and so again, Sarah and I are on the same wavelength for that. Obviously, her being the mother and being the mother type is more not against, but more in favor of just keeping the kids at home. But I'm equally as what's the word? Not passionate, but equally as inclined, I guess,
There you go.
to do that. As far as public or private school, probably going to be either a private or charter school.
Okay.
I put a lot of stock. Again, you guys heard my background. I went to charter school and a private school. I think it did great for me. And not to say that either one of my kids are going to have the same drive or goal orientation as me. But I think the education is good. Obviously, I didn't go to public school, but I don't know. I'm not a huge public school fan.
I mean, I attribute my success to going to a private school, but I only went up until 4th grade.
right.
So,
And we have the,
it was like just a solid foundation to start on. And like they did
Yep.
teach you like 2 grades ahead, and it was like started into public school, and you see a lot of stuff in public school,
Yeah.
but you don't learn a whole lot in public school.
Do you
Right.
think you learn more social skills in public
Oh
school?
yeah, for sure.
You know what I
Like yeah, whenever I tell people I'm an engineer, they're like, "But you're normal. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you?" Yeah, probably because I went to public school for majority of my like childhood.
There you go.
yeah, and we're also, and again, in a fairly unique situation, because our church has a Christian school attached to it, and it's a good one. I mean, both my obviously Sarah and her brother graduated from it, and they both got my brother-in-law is in the Air Force, and he got a scholarship at the Air Force Academy. So it's a good private school. I think there'll still be a conversation because I think there's some parts of the education that you could get maybe a little bit better, but we do like the biblical education they would get from the Christian school. And so that might outweigh some of the other education things that I might have preferences, but we're going to look into it. But I think for both of us, I think public school is not an option. Nothing against people who went to public school, but
Disclaimer.
That's right. Disclaimer. But that's our opinion.
It's funny.
You
Even if
know.
I live like in a better area, I might go drop my kid off in like the worst public school ever. just toughen them up.
Right.
Get them some street cred.
Yeah, man. You have to go through like metal detectors. All that.
Yeah, public school was a joke.
It was a joke?
It was a joke.
Academic wise.
I tried to make the most out of it that I could, and I still didn't get a whole lot out of it.
Yeah.
But socially was another aspect.
Yeah.
Just like I remember senior year, you took the AP literature. It was like AP literature. Was it for
English
us?
lit, yeah,
Whatever.
something like that.
I went and just took regular English because I was like, I hate literature. Like, I don't care. I just want to take it kind of easy, at least in English. Every day I slept in the class because the rest of the students would always argue with the teacher. Like, nothing ever happened in
Oh,
that class. I just
yeah.
You
slept.
learned nothing.
I learned nothing.
Like not a single thing.
Not a thing. And like all I had to do was write that senior paper, 10-page paper. There
Right.
you go. Done. It was a joke.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a good choice to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to public school.
Definitely hits the nail on the head there.
I mean, I remember, in high school, I remember we were doing, we had a whole massive reading list. We were doing book reports every, I think, once every couple weeks, on top of reading in a book group and analyzing, what did they mean. And we do a chapter a week and meet in a small group and with the teacher at the end of the week. And
Private school's a lot of work.
it is. It is
a ton of work.
Well, and the charter school I mentioned, Ben Franklin Charter School, is excellent, but you really have to be the type of kid and the type of learner that fits that. Like I was. My sisters went to that school. It wasn't good for them because it's there's a lot of homework. You're coming home. I mean, I remember, and I would cry through book reports. Like I was good at it, but I didn't like really English and doing book reports. Reading comprehension is like my worst subject.
Yeah.
So I'd be crying through book reports, and there'd be so much homework to do. But I was very much, I was weird, and I liked school, right? And so I was okay with it, and I worked really well with it. And like I said, Sarah came from also, she went to the private school that, we're considering. And so both of us have a private school background. Yeah. So,
That's awesome. Yeah. And I agree with you, like preschool. I definitely didn't go to preschool, and I think I did okay academic wise,
Yeah.
So
I don't think that's a defining factor in your intelligence.
yeah, I don't think so either. And I've heard a lot of people say like, oh no, we want to start them in preschool because they get to learn a lot. But
I think I remember taking naps. That's all I remember from preschool.
yeah,
You roll out this little mat, and it's like, it's nap time.
Really?
It's like, all right. Eat some snacks after. Like,
Is it more of a daycare?
it pretty much is.
yeah, that's basically it. It's a big part of it because usually, now what the difference is sometimes you don't have a choice because if you are a working family, like both of you work, it transitions from daycare when they're like 0 to 2 or 0 to 3. It becomes preschool when they're 3 and 4. But it's essentially, they just do a little bit more learning with alphabet and numbers in the preschool. but it's essentially a daycare.
Okay.
So
Glorified daycare.
a glorified daycare. So if you have the opportunity, and I don't know what kind of study. I'm sure they've done studies on this, but I don't know what, the results or anything like that. But I just have a feeling that if you're able to, and you're able to be home with the kid, and really they're getting that learning from their parent, and you know how your kid learns typically, and you know what's best for them, and you can really get them ready for kindergarten. So
There you go.
I got like one big overarching question. Unless you guys got anything else.
Go for it.
I had just one really quick. Do you have like a vision almost? Like, all right, he's gonna do, I don't know, like he's gonna do soccer at this age, and like I'm gonna push him like towards like an athletic route, or like towards like an artistic route.
What's your ideal
route?
kid? Is what he's asking.
Like, and would you be disappointed? Like, I don't know. Let's say you just really love basketball and you kind of push him towards that way, and he's like, "No, I just want to be an artist." Like, how would you feel?
Like you had a sheet to fill out. This is what my kid's gonna be.
Yes.
What would it be?
So it's interesting you say. I have thought about it. I don't think we're gonna try to push our kid in any direction. But like for example, I did both. Like I did piano lessons when I was younger. Played the violin in junior high and high school. I played the drums, and I did major sports. So I would consider myself well rounded.
Nice.
And I think that's what we would try to do with our kids is have them be well rounded. But as they're growing up, you kind of watch to see what they're interested in. And I think we'll try a lot of things. We'll try soccer. We'll try baseball, t-ball. Like I'm a huge baseball fan, so I kind of hope that he at least likes baseball.
Yes.
Maybe not is not trying to be a Major League Baseball player, but at least likes baseball. So we have that in common. We can go out in the backyard and throw a ball and hang out, and that's a way we can connect. But the nice thing is because I'm fairly well rounded. Typically, whatever direction he kind of decides to go, I have some sort of a connection that we can relate to. But I think our goal is to have more of a well-rounded child that learns well, is a good citizen. Like they respect elders. They have good good biblical foundation, and we have a lot of stuff like that I think we're focused on that, and the rest of the extracurricular stuff will kind of be dependent on what they enjoy. That's awesome. Which it's hard because you have to pick up on those cues, and I'm not very good at reading people. So I'm trying to I'm like, how am I going to know what I see and interest in this kid?
Right.
And that's what Sarah will probably have a lot of insight and perception on as well. So
I've always said, like, no matter what my kid does or likes, they're gonna be in shape, and they're gonna know how to fight. Just to defend themselves. And
yeah.
Like, my girlfriend's always like, well, what if they don't like to work out? I'm like, I don't care. They're going to be in shape. Like,
You're just gonna have a bunch of meathead kids and stuff.
dude.
Drink your protein now.
Dad, I just want to play video games.
You're gonna start putting protein in their milk, at 1 or 2 years old.
Making your the mother of your child drink protein shakes.
That's right. Just transfer
Comes out through it.
Speaking of playing video games, do you guys see that parents are now hiring professional gamers for tutors for Fortnite?
Yeah.
No.
I saw that. It's like they're gonna make this their professional career or something like that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I did not hear that. All right, Joey, do you got your...
So yeah, I guess just lasting question here. Biggest piece of advice for either having a kid or
Planning
to have a kid, or not having a kid, whatever.
That's a deep question.
I know. You can think about it.
I would say so. I have two things, if that's okay. I know you said one thing, but two things.
It's fine.
And one of these is more of a personal thing. It's if you can, unless the kid is an accident, try to have a very solid financial foundation and have a plan for when you have the kid. Like, here's what we're going to do if you can. I know that's not the case with all the time. So, I mean, sometimes it just happens.
You have at least 9 months to decide.
You have at least 9 months, right? Exactly. But sometimes, depending on the financial aspect of it, sometimes 9 months, the finance stuff works in really long periods of time, typically.
Right.
But for short-term stuff, make sure I guess to go along with this under this realm is, make sure you can afford the kid. That you can, give it food and shelter and stuff like that. I know where Sarah works is a hospital that's kind of in a rougher part of town. So she has a lot of addicts that have babies, and she's got some sad stories, but those would be like, they can't take care of a kid, and so that's when you have the Child Protective Services coming by and whatever. So make sure you can afford to have the kid and have a good solid foundation, so that way, because when you have that stuff and when you've talked about that with your spouse, it just takes another thing off of the potential for conflict. When you guys are on the same page and know what you're going to do, there's no like, oh, I thought you were going to do this, but no, I'm going to do this, and then you have conflict and on top of having the kid. So that's one. The second thing is, I kind of alluded to a little bit, is it's not necessarily even about the kid. It's about you and your spouse. Find someone who has your same, the same mindset and same goals. Because when you start throwing a kid, and a lot of times people are like, they get married and they're having problems, and they're like, well, let's have a kid. It'll solve all the problems. Yeah. No, it's not. It doesn't work like that.
It's pretty cliche, but yeah, I don't think that works.
It doesn't. No, you're right. It does not work, because your kid is part of you guys, and then it could lead to problems if you don't already have a solid relationship with your spouse.
It's just an extension of you, so everything you do is reflected.
Exactly. Like they're just basically sometimes mini demon versions of you. So they bring out your worst qualities, and you're like, I know that you're getting that from me, but I don't like it. And so I would say that's probably my two biggest pieces of advice.
That's fair.
But just in summary, I mean, they're a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, but man, are they fun. They're awesome. I mean, I get to, go home after work and just see this kid just get a big old grin, and, just watch him figure things out and watch him have a curious attitude of just exploring this new world of his. Oh man, it's really hard to explain. People, before we had him, you'd hear I talked to a lot of dads, and every time, or even just random people, you'd hear these dads talk about, man, it's an incredible feeling. I can't explain it. And at the time, I was like, how can you not explain a feeling? I
was going to ask you that, what's the emotional value? Because you said you're like a robot, but has the kid turned you into something that's...
well, first of all, my wife's taken off some of the rough edges. I've had to become a little bit less robotic, and
right.
I become a little bit more... I'm a robot at heart still, but... but with the kid, it does bring out, emotions, good and bad. I mean, I remember one time I was watching him, and he was crying, and I had no idea what to do. And I was just like, I felt really I was frustrated at myself. I was like, how can I not know what this kid wants? And why can't I provide this kid with what he needs right now? And I was getting angry at myself. I was like, but, where was I going with that? But you'll hear dads. It is a feeling you can't explain, and I didn't understand it. It's just you have to go through it and you'll understand it. It's just this. I can't explain it. It's this immense feeling of it's just love.
I made this.
Yeah, I made this. You do feel an extra pressure of responsibility as a dad. At least I do. For provision, you want the best for your kid. You want top notch. You don't want them to, have a wonderful, a great life.
It's a weird biological instinct.
It is, and it's. But man, when we were when I was in the delivery room, as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my goodness, this is real. Before, because all you would see, and Sarah would be she'd give me crap for. You don't even care that we're having a baby, and she was pregnant, so she was all right. Hormonal, whatever. And I was like, I do care, but all I see is a screen. I don't have him inside of me. I don't have him that connection that the moms have. Yeah. But as soon as he came out, as soon as he was born, I was like, boom, there it is.
Right.
Man, it's just inexplicable. But
awesome.
Yeah. So,
well, does that change your perspective? You gonna have kids now? I forgot what you said. Did you want kids ever?
No.
You never do?
No.
Still don't?
I still don't.
You still want 12?
13 now.
Oh, there it is. He wants that feeling 13 times.
We're starting tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty tapped out.
All right.
You guys got any other questions?
Nah, that was a solid episode.
That was very insightful. That was
Yeah.
very, very. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. That was great.
Appreciate having you.
Absolutely.
we gotta have him for a second episode because he told us some stuff offline,
Yeah.
but off air. So yeah.
Yeah, I got like responses to some of your questions from your other episodes.
Yeah.
Like for whatever. So I told Ruben I'll try to write them down.
Yeah.
So that if
we talk about it.
Yeah.
We always want to hear perspective from other people because
Yeah.
we hear our own perspective and we're all kind of always on the same page. So it's like,
I know.
let's hear some different ideas.
I heard the first episode and I was like, we're hilarious. Like we're gonna do great, guys.
Yeah, and if it's like I said, if you got any other topics, whatever, just let me know. I'll be here.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
awesome.
Good to
It's
have
been
you.
a while. Yeah, I was texting Joey earlier today. It's been a while. So
It's just an excuse to hang out.
exactly.
That's the only, half the reason why we do it.
Yeah.
It's just to hang out.
That is true.
Yeah.
And for all of our listeners, please feel free to comment. And if you got any topics for us to talk about, comment, email us, hit us up.
We like the ideas.
Yep.
All right. And with that, we're out.
Thanks for tuning in to the Yup Life.
If you enjoyed it, leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, or just follow us at the Yup Life Podcast.
We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play Music.
Stay yuppie.